This next speaker was instrumental in allowing you to go to the Pekaha Mount Bruce Sanctuary. So Mavis Mullins, Rangatane Te Atiha Nui o Paparangi Ngāti Ranganui, is an inductee into the New Zealand Business Hall of Fame, named as an outstanding Māori business leader, a rural woman of influence, and a member of the Order of Merit for services to the wool industry. But behind the scenes, Mavis Mullins worked to secure the long-term future of Pekaha, so we give her a great amount of thanks for that. And today, Mavis is speaking as chair of Ngā Whenua Rāhui. Thank you very much.
Kei te mihi nui kia koutou, ko Mavis Mullins ahau. While we're waiting, I might as well just start. Ko Ruahine te maunga, the Ruahine Ranges are my mountains. Ko Manawatu te awa, the Manawatu River is my river. Ko Rangitāne o Tamakinui-a-Rua, so that's Dannevirke Way. Ātihau Nui a Paparangi, so that's up the Whanganui River. And Ngāti Ranginui, that's Tauranga Moana, Takuiwi, so I am from those places. Ko Tamakinui-a-Rua ahau, so I live in Dannevirke, I'm a farmer in Dannevirke. Ko Mavis Mullins ahau, tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa. All good, all good. I'm going to go off my own notes then, how's that? So, can I just first of all ask for a show of hands, who knows Ngā Whenua Rāhui? Oh my gosh, so impressed, thank you. I've often asked the question and very few people. But before I talk about Ngā Whenua Rāhui, can I just comment, so amazing to listen to this final plenary session, action on the ground. And for the MPI new strategy, fantastic, words are great, but it's the action on the ground that matters the most. And so certainly looking forward to having a look, going through the strategy and really understanding how it is going to take us forward.
USB, sorry Mavis, there's a problem with the presentation. You got your USB stick?
Let's forget it, we don't need a presentation. Actually, my general manager will kill me because I know they spent a lot of work on it. But I'll just talk us through it. So, yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge the work on the ground. Those of you who, and I know it's tirelessly and sometimes even thanklessly, undertake this work. And so, and I'm not being facetious, but with all the great words and the beautiful pictures, I'm really mindful that it's mud between your fingers and dirty boots and cold wet that makes all of this stuff happen. So I just want to acknowledge you all. All right, so Ngā Whenua Rāhui. I'm currently the chair of Ngā Whenua Rāhui. I've been on the board for a number of years now. It kind of feels a little bit like Hotel California, one of those places you go and you just can't really get out of, not that I want to, but you know, sometimes you do feel like you're starting to become like the old wood. So Ngā Whenua Rāhui has been around since 1980s. I think it came about something like 10 years after QE2. And it's a contestable fund that's really there to assist for the protection of biodiversity, biosecurity as well, actually, on Māori-owned lands. And that's interesting because people have often said to me, well, why do you need two? We've got QE2. Why do we need to have this Ngā Whenua Rāhui, which looks a little bit the same? But actually, it's quite different. The biggest difference, really, is the fact that a lot of Māori land comes under Te Ture Whenua. And so it has a lot of compliances that's put upon it. For example, most of the land blocks have to have a committee of management or a management structure that is costly, that has to have shareholder registers, the whole 9 yards. And so it's quite an expensive structure. And so there's some acute differences between mum and dad. And I'm a farmer. I have a kawenata on our lands that my parents initiated, but it's a privately owned Māori land. But I'm also the chair of quite a large Māori incorporation with about 3,000 shareholder owners who all have to have a say, and they all want to have a say. So that can make things really interesting. But when you look at the two funds, it's quite, again, really interesting there as well. We both protect something like, I think it's about 180,000 hectares throughout New Zealand. Ngā Whenua Rāhui do that with about 300 covenants or kawenata. QE2 has about 3,500. So for Māori, it's much bigger. It's a much more extensive level of protection and biodiversity and support that we give. The other difference that's always interesting is that QE2 is in perpetuity, which is exactly what we need. But for Māori, it was more that the next generation had to have their say. And so kawenata are only signed up to for 25 years, with the view that it is going to be renegotiated. Now, the thing I love about that is I think we're about coming up to close to 30 years Ngā Whenua Rāhui has been in existence. So we are negotiating now with the next generation, helping them to also recommit to what biodiversity, what biosecurity, what protection actually means. So, it gets refreshed, if you like, every 25 years. It's quite an important distinction to make. The other cool thing about that whole 25-year time frame, the first 25 years was really about protection, because there was a lot of Māori land where ownership was not always formalised. And then, of course, district councils, regional councils started looking for rates. And so a lot of Māori land was being sold for unpaid rates. So Ngā Whenua Rāhui, in some ways, was a mechanism to help protect some of those lands by protecting it for that 25-year time frame. The next 25 years is quite different. We're in a different space. People have different understandings. It's a different political regime. It's even a different global headspace around what biodiversity and biosecurity means. And so this next 25 years has been more around how do we now take everything we've learned in that first 25 and give it back, or integrate ourselves much more with the owners so that the owners are taking much more responsibility. And that's been an interesting journey, I have to say. There's winners and losers in that. But for Ngā Whenua Rāhui, our role really is around how we work much more smartly with our Māori owners as they take more of a role in the biodiversity and protection of their lands. But a little bit like the stories I've heard, conservation, biodiversity, even biosecurity costs a lot of money, and it's money that very few, is getting much more difficult to achieve. And so the big question for all of us in the room today, and probably a lot who have already left, is how do we work together better? Because what I have seen in my time is that there's a lot of people in this space and we don't always work well together. And there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of under-leveraging, I'm going to say, amongst us all. And in this time that I've been with Ngā Whenua Rāhui, we've been so invested in just trying to keep ourselves going. But the time really has come, and I'm going to challenge us all, is to look up and to look out much more than we've done in the past. We don't all have to be the same experts, do we? Or do we? Surely not. You know, who does it best? And what is it that we can perhaps learn, or even maybe some collaborative activity where some of this stuff gets shared? And I was looking for some of these notes in the new strategy, you know, the innovation and stuff. But those are just words, and they have to be done by real people doing real stuff on the ground. And I'm going to, and I know I've got some of couple of my Ngā Whenua Rāhui colleagues here who can witness this. My challenge to all of us is, how do we do this together better? What are we going to do? And I'd like to think that before we walk out of or leave here today, this afternoon, that we actually do or commit to one or two things. And team, we'll meet and let's commit to one or two things that we're going to do differently after your 3 days here and my afternoon here. And can I challenge you all also to do the same? How do we work more closely with or understand better what Taranaki Biosecurity are doing? Could we do that over at Tararua? Could we do that up the Whanganui? How do we do these things better? And to me, that's got to be the biggest message that we all leave with. Because, and again, no disrespect, but governments come and go, strategies come and go, but it's people like us left on the ground. And Mr. Harvey, you said it before, you know, we're not doing this for ourselves. This is being done for the future generations. And one of the terms I've heard coined is, let's be a fabulous ancestor. Let's make the mokopuna decisions today where our legacy will be that we are remembered as fantastic ancestors. Because I think when I look back at some of the problems we're tackling today, perhaps our ancestors weren't quite as aware. They weren't quite as aware of the impacts that we're having to deal with. I think we can do better, and our children deserve better. And I think if every generation works harder to be a better ancestor, you know, we just might make it, team. We just might make it. So, look, I'm not going to take up any more of your time because I was actually told half of you would probably be quite hungover after last night anyway. So you might appreciate that, you know, just a shortened version of Ngā Whenua Rāhui. And I'm sorry, I'll have to say sorry to Connie that you haven't seen some of the gorgeous visuals that they prepared for you today. But I want to congratulate you all for the mahi that you do, and just know that for me as a mokopuna of Papatuanuku, I thank you deeply from the bottom of my heart. Tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa.